this series of talks. So today we'll be talking about Logassa Sutra. I think there was a time when people said you're a Jain, then the people said what distinguishes you is to say that you knew the Loka mantra. I think it's fair to say that now has come a stage whereby if you're a Jain, so many people now know the Logassa Sutra. It's probably one of the most popular prayers. Most of the kids in school learn it. Most of the parents are now learning this prayer, Logassa Sutra. So in a way it's quite befitting to understand what is this prayer and to understand what it means. So, how many people actually do know the Logassa? I would say so 80%. So in the interest of time, we'll actually not recite the full prayer. Maybe if you've got time towards the end, we'll recite the whole prayer. But it's actually got 7 verses, and most of the verses actually eulogizing the Tirthankars. So we've got the 24 Tirthankars, and it's in iteration of the 24 Tirthankars. So there is actually a word-to-word meaning of the Logassa. So you can actually go through each particular word, and it actually gives you the meaning of what does each Logassa ujjo kare. So each word, what does it mean? And again, because we had a late start, I'll actually skip through it, and we'll then summarize it further along as we go ahead. Okay. So it's actually even in English. So there's actually translations done in English. And once you understand the meaning, it's actually very, very nice to understand. So for example, Pahina Jara Marana. Pahin means to destroy. Jara means old age. Maran means death. So by reciting this, we are going to be destroying our... So if you understand these actually words, you actually get a lot of bhav and good feelings when you recite these prayers. As if we just carry on. So this is actually the summary of the entire prayer. It says, I will sing the glory of the 24 omniscient beings, the Tirthankars, who illuminate the entire universe. Ujjo kare. So that's the word. Ujjo means ujjot. Ujjot means illuminate. The entire universe by establishing the fourfold path of dharma. So that's a Tirthankar. Tirthankar means someone who establishes a tirth. A tirth is a bridge, a fort maker. It's like a bridge. And a Tirthankar establishes 4 things. So when a Tirthankar comes up, he says, Sadhu, Sadhvi, Shravak and Shravika. So that's actually, they've established the religion. So if someone is like for example, if you've got a president, they'll have their cabinet, they'll have the ministers. So a Tirthankar establishes their tirth. So they'll have some people who are monks and nuns, and then they have a certain set of rules for people like us, Shravak and Shravikas. The fort makers who are without attachment and aversion. That's a beauty. So most of the prayers which comes in is our Tirthankars are vitrag. They don't have any attachment or aversion. There is no favoritism, and for everyone, whether it's human beings, celestial beings, plants, animals, they have got absolutely no attachment and aversion to anyone, and they've conquered their inner enemies. So that's kind of very interesting. Jine, Jittu. So they are victors. And it's sometimes very interesting to say Arihantanam, Arihant. Ari means enemies, and Hant means to destroy. So that's what, and sometimes you wonder, is our religion quite violent? When we talk of non-violence, how can you have someone who's going to be saying that I am going to be destroying my enemies? And it's very, very interesting to know that which enemies are talking about? It's your inner enemies, Kashais, and the 4 Gati karmas. I bow down to, so that's the first verse. Then comes the next 3 verses, which says I bow down to, and then it's called a triads of 8 Tirthankars. So that one verse will say Rushabh, Ajit, Sambhav, Avinandan, Sumti, Padma Prabhu, Sukwar, Swachandra Prabhu. So those, it says I'm bowing down to those Tirthankars, and I'm bowing down to them. Then it comes in, I bow down to Pufadantan and Chittal, Shreyas, Vasupuja, Bimal, Anand, Dharma and Santi. So that's a triad of the next 8 Tirthankars. And then the last one is Kuntu, Ara, Malli, Muniswat, Nami, Neni, Parswa and Vardhaman. So Mayur Swami is actually called Vardhaman. So essentially those are the 24 Tirthankars we are giving our obeisance to. So it says, in this manner, I worship with names of those who are devoid of karmic burdens. So what's the quality of these Tirthankars? They don't have any karmic matter. So they have now become Siddhs and who are free from old age and death. May those 24 Tirthankars and other jinas be pleased with me. That's very powerful. Actually, it's a mantra. That itself is a mantra. Tithara me pasiyantu. May Tirthankars be pleased with me. And in a way, that becomes a very powerful mantra to say that if I'm doing good deeds, then it's like, for example, if there is a student going to school, and if he does the good things, then the teacher is going to be very pleased. And that's the glory for the child. Oh, today the teacher actually praised me. My parents actually praised me. And can you imagine the joy of the child? And so that's exactly what you're saying. If you've done some really good stuff, then we think that may those 24 Tirthankars and Jinas be pleased with me. In a way, it's actually quite counterintuitive, because the 24 Tirthankars, as we say, are without any attachment or aversion. So they don't have any attachment and aversion, so how can someone be pleased with you? And it's an indirect message to say that these are Pitragis, and they're in Shichilas, they're mere observers. But what happens is that each Tirthankars have got their devs and devis. Those are celestial beings, or angels. And they are the ones who says, if you're doing such great things, you're adoring the same Tirthankar who I actually even adore, and because they've got much more powers, let me help you. If you're if there's any problems with you, let me help you. So essentially we are getting indirect benefit by adoring the Tirthankars, the devis in heaven. They might be pleased with our bhakti, and they might help us. So it's an indirect gain. I glorify, praise, I bow down, and I worship those liberated beings, or siddhas, who are supreme in the universe. Loguttama, Lokma Uttamche. So they are the supreme beings in this universe. Kindly bestow upon me an inner state of well-being, right faith. So arogya gohi labham. So that's what which comes in. Arogya. Rog means disease. So arogya, it's the opposite. So like hinsa is violence, ahimsa is non-violence. So arogya, rog means disease, arogya gohi, buddhi. So right faith, labham in the highest state of consciousness. And samahi varamuttam into samadhi. Samadhi is also very important, which says equanimity, the highest state of consciousness. And then the last line is actually very poetic. Chande sunimalera, you're more tranquil than the moon. So they're actually bringing in nature in the prayers. Can you imagine? And bringing in nature is very, very common in Jain prayers. If you look at Bhaktamar Sutra, if you look at this, if you look at Vasagram, they're bringing in nature very, very often. They compare it to the moons and the stars and the trees. And then bringing in nature is the seas, Kundin to Bokhira to Sarvana. There are so many prayers which actually bring in nature. So you're more tranquil than the moon, more aichis ayam payasera. You're more brighter than the sun. You are calmer and deeper like the ocean. Sagar Gambhira. And O omniscient siddhas, can't be perfection, the state of liberation. And you're actually now asking, please, that you reach that position. I would also like to, please grant me the perfection. I would like to get to the same state as you are in. Now, if you looked at the previous prayers which were discussed, there used to be the Alochana Sutras. So, Ichakras, Iriya Vayam, if I, while walking and coming, if I crossed any living beings, I'm asking for criticism. Then came the next stage of Kayotsar, Tasotri Karaninam. Then you're in the Kayotsar, and now then comes the devotion, Chaturvid Sutra. So, Chatur means 4, Vis means 20. So, another name for Logassa Sutra is Chaturvis Tava Sutra. So Logassa is considered supreme amongst all the sutras. Endless devotion in each and every word of this prayer. Chant with concentration and you'll be overwhelmed with devotional energy. Now, someone can ask, what's the benefit of actually bowing down to the Tirthankars? What is the advantage of me bowing down to anyone who is? And it says in Uttarayan Sutra that enables right vision to become pure and perfect. So the more you actually give devotion to someone, your right vision or your faith becomes more pure and perfect. Even if you look at some of this, like for the Christian faith, when you kneel before God, He stands up for you. And when He stands up for you, no one can stand against you. Can you imagine what kind of strength and conviction you come in? So no matter what activities you do, if you've given you bow down or you respect your God, you get that sense of energy and achievement that I can achieve anything in the world. There's another famous, Guru and God both appear before me. To whom should I prostrate? And the answer is, I bow down before Guru, who introduced God to me. May Guru's blessings always shower on you. So it's again, the Gurus have actually guided me to the God, so I'll actually give my obeisance to the Gurus. So when we knock on the doors of saints to redeem ourselves of strife and misery, they tell us with certainty that there is only one way, nothing else but God's name. This is so common. Apne gamme te problems there, if people have got health problems, if people want money, anything, if you go and if you went to any gurus, whoever you believe in, they're not going to say, okay, do this or the other. Or you might go to an astrologer. Astrologer might say something different to you. But if you go to any spiritual teacher, they'll always say, mantra bolo, kya karo. Either the math tyag karo, it's a spiritual guidance they'll give you. So it's like nothing but God's name. And we all know that in adversity, people, all what they do is recite God's name. And this is irrespective of any faith. So if you went to any hospitals, whether it's a Christian person, whether it's a Buddhist, or anyone who it is, it's when you're in adversity, the only thing which comes along you is God's name. And so faith is endless fountain of power. Nothing can be achieved without faith. And this is very, very pertinent because people who have got a very strong spiritual sense can do wonders. And I think just last week there was actually a talk by Dr. Amit Bakai, and he, being a medical doctor, actually emphasized the point that when you go in hospitals, people with faith can do wonders which conventional medicines cannot do. And that was amazing to see how he gave some actually real examples of things which are mind-boggling, which medical science can say this cannot be true, but if people with faith and people with conviction, they can defy logic. So it's kind of another sense of like on spirit. So now let's look at an analogy. So yeah, just that there. So there was actually a group of, let's look at a story. There was a group of a lot of learned people, just like this here, like the audience here, learned people here. And someone came into this room and with a closed fist. Now people are wondering, so the audience asked, I wonder what's in his closed fist. He's coming in, this whole group of intelligent people here, and he's coming in with a closed fist. So then one by one, all these intelligent people asked him, what's in your hand? So if you just press, so he said, so someone asked him, the first person asked him, so what's in your fist? He says, I put an elephant. People are wondering, is this really true? I mean, an elephant in this fist of hand? The second person asked, he said, I've got a horse. And the third person asks, got a mountain, and the fourth person asks, I've got stars. Now, these people are wondering, what is this? I mean, he seems to be a very intelligent person, and how bizarre, how can he have 4 different things in his hands? I'm very curious to find out, can you just actually explain to me, what is this? He says, I've actually got a blob of paint in here. Says, that's all what I have in my hand is just a blob of some kind of paint. If I could dissolve this powder in the water, and if I got a paintbrush, I can then start painting a horse, I can paint an elephant and mountains and stars. So all what he had, he says, I've answered your question, so that's true. Because with this blob of thing, I've actually really got an elephant, a horse, mountain and stars. And this is an example to say that God's name is as small as a blob of color. So you write with the pen of conduct on the canvas of wisdom using ink of faith, and you'll get whatever you wish for. So just as a blob of color can produce nothing in isolation, with this blob of water you need to put it into some water, and then you need some paintbrush. Chanting the name of God without faith will yield nothing. So you need our own effort. We need our effort with this, and then you can actually almost achieve anything. So this kind of an analogy to say that you or all of us can achieve whatever we do with the name of God. Now, another thing of understanding this is, why is it important to remember the name of God? It says it purifies our mind. Constant chanting of the name just purifies the mind. In fact, just for Christmas I actually went on a holiday. It was amazing to see, there was an old lady struck by paralysis. And she came to the kind of walking ground, and she was literally just saying, Jai Jalan Bapa, Jai Jalan Bapa, and literally one step would take literally a minute to do, and she would do about an entire kilometer in about 1 to 1.5 hours, but all what she was reciting in that state of pain and agony, with one step, just because she was just Jai Jalan Bapa, and that's all her faith and conviction. So, even in adversity, it just purifies your mind. So, our gods shows the path to non-violence and truth. So that's what our gods are. They've achieved that path, and they want to say, how can we reach to that path through non-violence and truth? They shed the divine light of knowledge to shed the darkness of ignorance. And therefore, as aspirants, we must always remember them and eulogize their virtues with gratitude and faith. Now, there is actually an epic poem, Naishat Charitra, which was written by, I forget the name, it was written by Shishup, who is the author? Is not here. And he actually wrote this epic poem. It's about Damayanti and Nal, and he says, to remain quiet about those who are superior to us is unbearable and makes null and void the great speech of gift we have. We are endowed with this speech, and he says if you can't use this speech properly, then, and I think it's also very pertinent not only for us but also for the kids. Sometimes you go around and in this day and age, people are using such foul and wild language, and it's just, it makes you wonder that you've got this wonderful gift, why actually using it in such a wrong manner, and people are using swear words. It's now almost become such so common, people in this kind of society, and it just makes you wonder that can't you use your speech to say something good, and if you can't say something good, at least say the name of God, and that's the utility of the senses which we've got. Now, remembering great souls purifies our hearts by removing the restlessness born from desires and passions. It's almost like a light. Okay, what happens is if you've got a small light outside your house, it does not only illuminate the outside, but it can also illuminate the inside. So, the same thing with the name of God. Divine name on our lips illuminates our inner and external world. Gives us strength to tread the path of supreme vows. So, it not only gives you, so by reciting the name of God, our health will be good, so we'll start feeling better, so that's an outward benefit, but even internally we'll start feeling much better. Now, strength emanates from resolves. So that's a key thing, the faith, the determination. So human beings made of faith and beliefs, and that's really the key and integral part of us. And no matter who you are or what you are, this is really the key part of it, that really the faith and the belief. The positive affirmation. There are so many positive books, The Power of Now, The Power of Positive Thinking. They all would say is that you have to have the confidence in yourself and you have to think positive. Life becomes a mirror of the faith you nurture and the resolves you make. Now, names of brave people infuse feelings of bravery within us. And that's exactly like when people in the army, they actually sort of look at the name, Napoleon and all these brave warriors. So now what image you carry in your mind will give you that kind of feelings. So our minds take the imagery of those objects or feelings that we come into contact with. So divine names are not mere inert alphabets, they create magic in our lives. And so if you start reciting these names, you can just see things which you cannot explain logically. Now, so when we say, like, look at the, so this is Logassa Sutra. And when you are sort of saying, okay, this is an example. So when you say, Rushabha Bhagwan, what kind of image will come into your mind? Obviously, many people would have been to Palitana. That's where one of the places where Adesha Bhagwan is the main temples, Palitana. But who was Rushabha? We know that he was our first Tirthankar. And what were the attributes of Rushabha? So we believe, according to Jain philosophy, that Asi, Mashi and Krishi. So Rushabha was the person who started civilization. So he is the first person according to Jain belief, because every belief, if you look at the Hindu people, then Hindu people will have their whole set of beliefs. For the Christians, it will be Adam and Eve who were the first people. But according to Jains, that we all believe in a time cycle era. And so within the first 3 eras was all happiness. And Lord Rushabha was born around the sort of the 3rd to the 4th era. And during that time, that's the time when he started civilization. So before that there was no civilization. And it's kind of quite strange to know that there was a period of Yug and Yugaliks. So what Jains believe was, before Adesha Bhagwan, everyone was born as twins. They married as twins and they died as twins. So in this day and age we can actually feel that, how is that possible? But that was the period at that stage. And all the needs of the society were fulfilled by wishful kalpa vraksh. So wish fulfilling trees. You go near a tree and say, I want house. So you'll get a house. And if you say, I want food, you'll get food. So no matter what you want. And because it's common to the whole society, there was no greed. Whatever you wanted, you would have got. Whatever I want, I get. So there's no point of any jealousy or you got more, I got less. So the society was in an equanimous state. There was no ill feelings. It was a total happy environment. And then as the time period started evolving, then these trees started becoming less. That's when sort of people started saying, you got more, I got less. Let me steal from you. Let me become a bit greedy. I want more than you. And so that's the time when Rushabha Bhagwan was born, and that's the time when Asi, Mashi and Krishi. So he's the one who taught people how to do farming, because now the trees are not going to just wish, I want this food. That's not going to happen. You'll have to work for your food. So if you want to eat, you need to work, and after you work, you'll have to do some agriculture and then feed yourself. Masi and Krishi, so writing, how to write and the arts. even how to fight. So you have to defend yourself. So he taught people that you need to defend your territory. So now you've got some territories here, and so we believe, according to him, he's the origin of civilization. There are some people who believe that Shiv and Rishabdev Bhagwan are one and the same. So there's some research which says, if you look at Shiv, he's behind a mountain, Himalayas. That's where Rishabdev Bhagwan was, the Kailash kind of mountains. There's Trishul at the back of and sometimes believe that that's a sign for Jains, Samyak Darshan and Charitra. Rishabdev Bhagwan had long hair. If you look at many of the murtis, you'll see Rishabdev Bhagwan with sort of long hair, and you'll see Shiv. So there's some people who believe that Shiv and Rishabdev Bhagwan are, and Shiv's sign is a bull, Adesha Bhagwan's sign is a bull. So there are a lot of correlations between both those personalities. So these are the kind of things which happen. So like when you sort of say Rishabh Bhagwan, so these are kind of the images which come into your mind. That yes, this is who he was. The next one is, this is now Bhagwan Neminath, Girnar. So if you look at Neminath Bhagwan in Girnar, there are three Kalyanaks of Neminath Bhagwan in Girnar. So his Diksha, his Moksh, and I think one other Kalyanak was in Girnar. And if you look at Neminath Bhagwan's story, so what image will come into your mind? We know that he is one of utmost compassion. Neminath Bhagwan is like most people would know that the story, that he was about to get married, he was going to get married to Rajul. There's a marriage procession, and as the procession is going at that time, on the girl's side, they're actually going to be having some party. So there are lots of these animals in an enclosure, and they're going to be killed, so to serve as meals for the people. And if you listen to the song, it's kind of really heart-wrenching. Like Bhagwan Neminath ke mane poshuna pokara sampline ke asu che. What is this for? He says this is because of your marriage ceremony. All these animals are going to be sacrificed. He says no way. How can I be happy at the cost of these animals being killed? He says ratne pacho vado. So they are saying, move it back, I don't want to get married under these circumstances. And so he turns back, says, I don't want to get married, he wants to renounce the world. And then Rajul, she's distraught that this person I was going to get married to, he's actually turned back, I'm very distraught. They try to console her, okay, don't worry, if he's gone away, you'll find another person to get married to, why are you so upset? But she says, no, he's the person who I set my heart to, so the path he's followed, I'll follow the same path. And then she follows, and she also then takes Diksha. So it's kind of that compassion towards animals, and we see right now the movement of veganism which goes along, and you can see that kind of correlations, that the compassion which Neminath Bhagwan had, and it's going on even in this day and age, and you can see that so much so that even Bhagwan was kind of thinking, Neminath Bhagwan, and now some people think milk is a new meat nowadays. The poultry farming and how people manufacturing of milk is becoming as cruel as actually consuming meat. So. And these are kind of the images. You can go to the past, come back to the present day, and see the linkages between Neminath Bhagwan's life. Parshvanath Bhagwan. So Parshvanath Bhagwan, Sankeshwar Parshvanath, that's one of the main peaks of Parshvanath Bhagwan. Also Samet Shikhar is another place. And his story is also, many people know about his story. There is snakes. At that time, there used to be this yagna. People used to do sacrifices. And that was quite common in the Hindu faiths. And here, through his clairvoyance knowledge, he knew that they were doing some yagna, and he said, "Stop this yagna. There are some snakes in there which are being burned." And he stopped the yagna. The snakes. He recited some Nokar mantra, and these two snakes in Jodi are whom we believe as Dhanendra and Padmavati. So the two deities which believe they are still living, and it's kind of in the heavens, and so sort of they really are kind of devotees. So, and again, the thing with Parshvanath Bhagwan is that this other thing which shows that Vera Prabandhe, if we have any ill feelings towards someone, so Kamat and Parshvanath Bhagwan, that the Vera was going on for years and years through many lives. So if we have now started making enemies, it can so happen that these enemies can carry on for so many lives. It becomes so intense. And Kamat was in these different life forms. He was literally attacking Parshvanath Bhagwan. But once when Parshvanath Bhagwan became evolved, then what happened was that he was becoming a little bit calm, but Kamat always had his aggression. So this is actually what happens when you have two parties into an argument. If one person becomes pacified, what the other person does is beyond your control. But it just shows, and this is another example in our day-to-day life of see कि आपने एक बार जब If he starts finding some very strong knots, I hate this person, I do this, then this can actually carry on for so many life forms, and to come out of that is quite difficult. But the other thing which shows him was equanimity. Elephant tarike છે, dung ખાઈએ છે, but just bear with equanimity. Mahavir Bhagwan. Obviously, there are so many illustrations about Bhagwan Mahavir. This is actually a temple, Bamanwada. This is the actual exact location where Bhagwan Kanma Khila Twaikata. And look at the exquisite temple there. And this is the exact location where the Twaikata. Just very close to this tirtha is Nandiya Tirth. And that is the exact location, this temple here, whereby Bhagwan Chanda Kaushik snake in a Kaidoto. So, and you can actually see in the photo, it's not very lit because it's dark, but they've actually got an image of a snake there, and it says this is the exact spot and location whereby Bhagwan was going through the forest, and Chanda Kaushik in a Dam Kamayoto. But the story which illustrates is that when Bhagwan Mahavir was saying, people were saying, don't go to the forest, this snake is very ferocious, anyone who passes through will be killed. And Bhagwan had compassion and saying no, and he just said 3 words to the Chanda Kaushik, saying, Buj, 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 means wake up, wake up, wake up. And obviously, we believe that animals can also sense that kind of language, and the snake started understanding what it says, wake up, means get rid of anger, get rid of anger. What is this? Why are you constantly angry? And the snake then totally pacified. All other villagers came, and then they saw the snake here, not doing anything, not hissing, not doing anything. They just stoned it to death. But they said, this is it. I have killed so many people throughout their lives. Now is the time when people are angry towards me. There's nothing I can do. I have to bear my karmas with equanimity. So that was there. The other thing is Sulapini. So that's another demon. Bhagwan 12 years meditation so much in a heran to the Bhagwan Mahavir, and he was in total equanimous state. It is said in the scriptures that Bhagwan Mahavir in his last life only cried once. And when did he cry? Not when he took diksha, not when he was about to die. He only cried, tears only came from his eyes only once. And that was this occasion where after about 6 or 8 months of total torture, this Dev is now going back to the heavens. And Bhagwan through his foresight says that this Dev has given me so much hardships and problems that what karmas has he found that he's going to suffer so much because of what pain he's inflicted me. And out of pure compassion towards him, I feel sorry for this soul that he's going to bear. I really feel sorry. So can you imagine what compassion? Someone has done pain to you, and the consequence which that person is going to face, you feeling actually your heart is breaking because of that. So that's it. That it's only once he cried. As we know, with compassion, Diksha Niditi, they say that he had one piece of cloth on his when he took Diksha. Some poor person came, there's a story which says when someone does Diksha, there's a Varsikan. They just give out things. So for 1 year, Bhagwan Mahavir did that, and then he took Diksha. And this one person, the farmer, says, oh, by the way, I did not get anything. 1 whole year you're giving away stuff. I was away and I couldn't get anything. Can you please give me something? And he, Bhagwan Mahavir, okay, this one piece of cloth, you can have it. So, but these are all the kind of attributes we learn from Bhagwan Mahavir which we can apply to our life. Chandan Balani, the story. The other story is also very interesting. He is Gautam Swami, his chief disciple. And now and can you imagine, so he's an acharya, very learned person. He goes to Anand Shravak's place, and he then says, Anand Shravak, I've actually got clairvoyance. I can actually see so much distance away. Gautam Swami says with his knowledge, I don't think so. You must be lying, because this kind of knowledge can only come to monks and nuns who have advanced in their spiritual stages. You, as a lay person, you're not a sadhu. I don't believe that you can see to that extent. That some people can to a certain extent. So I actually think that you should actually ask for forgiveness, and because you're actually lying. That it's just not possible that as a lay person you can do that. Gautam Swami goes back to Lord Mahavir and saying, Bhagwan Mahavir, I actually met one Shravak here today, and he was actually boasting that he can see so much into the future. But as I know that as only monks and nuns have got that. Bhagwan Mahavir says no, he's a very evolved soul, and he's actually, although he's a lay person, he has got the capability. You were actually quite wrong to reprimand him. Can you go back and apologize to him? So here is Acharya, head of all the sadhus, he's an Acharya person, going back to the Shravak's place and actually asking forgiveness.